hear that? That's the sound of a good old 1.9 turbo diesel. You see this? That's Volkswagen. You hear that? That's a good old straight pipe. But besides the fact, this is the Mark 5 Volkswagen Jetta. And for the ones already asking, yes, it does roll coal. A lot of it. Lucky enough for me, this specific model actually comes in the 5-speed manual. The reverse, for some reason, getting pushed down. I don't know who's used to that, but I sure wasn't when I bought the car. Volkswagen's factory interior, it's actually quite nice, especially with the leather seats. And this carbon fiber stuff, I just done myself, actually. You can find that stuff on Temu, by the way. Besides that fact, what does it look like under the hood? This here is my 1.9-liter turbo tractor engine, as you can hear. Now you might notice this 1.9 TDI does not look like ones you might have seen before. This is the PD, otherwise known as BRM. What you've probably seen before is this right here. This is the ALH 1.9 TDI. If you're just getting in the market for these cars with the BRM 1.9, I'm going to tell you a few things that I've had to do with this car to, well, keep it maintained and running as these do. If this is also your first time in the TDI market, of course the first thing I had to do is do an EGR delete. What's an EGR delete? Basically, your EGR system is what recirculates exhaust gases. Essentially, a TDI has a system which basically makes it eat its own shit. You don't want that. That's why I ordered this kit right here. I'll leave the link in the description below if you want to get it yourself on Amazon. It wasn't that expensive, but it is a little bit of a pain to do. As you can see on this picture here, it wasn't that fun. I'm not gonna lie. I was terrified to rip the gasket completely, which I don't want to deal with an oil leak. This picture right here, you see this? Camshaft. This is something so common that maybe if you're a 1.9 liter PED owner, you already know exactly what this is. You gotta rebuild. You gotta get a rebuild kit. Now mine is from Amazon. I had it rebuilt for me. And they like to run into ring and camshaft issues where they like to warp. And then you have a rowdy knock just like this. Take a listen. I don't know about you, but it's not supposed to be making that noise. Especially not supposed to hear when you're revving the car from outside, not the engine bay. But after having driven the car for a little bit, I was actually going to sell this car. Someone had test drove it and they came back and they said, in their own words, this thing will not make it back home. It feels a ticking time bomb, so I had to leave the car alone for a little bit until I got the rebuild kit. Another common issue with this motor is the turbo. And by that I mean sometimes the wastegate, it likes to kind of, how should I say this, choke itself to death as well as the motor. It'll run into overboost or underboost codes where the actuator will not want to open up fully, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. This back here is your turbo actuator, and once that goes kaput, basically your motor's going to try to choke itself out. By you flooring it, the ECU is saying, give it all the fuel I got, but this can't actually keep up with the boost, so it's going to choke the motor and lug itself out, basically imploding your car or sending your turbo to outer space. Leads me to say, pro tip, do not tune your TDI too much if your turbo is having issues, because there goes your motor, potentially your turbo as well, if that's not broken already. And of course, here's a better view of that EGR delete kit. With turbo, because I got a cheaper mechanic that did a quite good job, turbo and the top end being rebuilt, I think I spent roughly $800 to $1,000, and since then depending on how you treat it, you'll get a lot more life out of this motor. And I'm sitting at over 400,000 kilometers. But if that's what you want to do, you want to keep it running much longer, there's certain maintenance tips that you also need to know. I didn't ask you to be here. Here are 2 jugs of motor oil. You see the difference? If not, I'll show you. This here is Rotella T6 5W40. Why do you need such specific oil for these little 1.9 TDIs? Simple. It's a picky motor. If it's not lubricated properly, I promise you, those camshafts will wear out way faster than you would like them to. And I do this, I spend the extra couple bucks for this oil because I don't really feel like rebuilding my motor 4 times. And depending how well you maintain your car, you can usually do up to 10,000 kilometers before you do an oil change. But please keep up with them because sludge builds up quite quick. And you don't want that. I'm not going to go into the whole details of it, but this is called Power Up. These little motors, they love it. Just because you're eating this, you can pause it, doesn't mean that you can put this in your motorcycle or your gasoline car. Be very careful when you're buying this stuff. And yes, it will help your car in the long run. Now we come to the Germans' most favorite part to screw up on these cars. suspension components. The rear suspension on these cars, I don't know if it's on the gasoline as well, but I know from the TDI, the rear can camber itself out. There are certain bolts and pins that the dealership has the best way to angle them, because my car, just a couple months ago before I had Volkswagen realign it, was like this. And the inside of my tires, you can imagine how bald they looked. So you might want to do that. And if you've seen these cars on the road, you probably are already aware of the notorious rocker rust. Before I move on to the last part, which is tuning, the front CV axles. If you want to pull burnouts on these, either I hope you have good CV axles or they're upgraded, because if you don't, they're probably going to snap off. Mine are already making noise, so I wouldn't doubt it if I've got to make a new repair video soon. Final thing you need to know before buying the 1.9 TDI. They love to be tuned, and if you think that the 1.9 TDI is just this slow grandma car, well, until it's tuned, you'd be wrong. When I went to a professional diesel tuner, all I got was the stage 2 tune and a slight smoke tune. If you want to, if your car's running healthy enough to handle more smoke with your stock injectors, feel free to tune it. All the more fun when you get to roll cool. I know some people don't like that, but now if you want to play it safe, you could just stick with the stage 1 to stage 2 tune. I went with the stage 2, and the power increase is... I can't describe it. But with that comes other things like clutch. If you're adding more power with a stage 2, stage 1, be careful with your clutch. That's about all I have to say for the Mark V Jetta. This is, of course, specifying in the 1.9 TDI. If you want to get these cars, they're great. They're awesome cars. Don't get me wrong. But there are a few things that they like to be picky with. But if you got all that down, you've noted everything that you've done to the car and that needs to be done to the car, these cars will last a long time. This one specifically has been on the road for almost 500,000 kilometers with the right maintenance. Last but not least, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment, and check out the other 2 YouTube channels that I have for automotive and maybe just some inspiration if you need that.